So please put your hands together for the 16th Lancers. I've been told that in a few moments' time we'll be then having the Manchester Regiment, and then they'll be being followed in by the Norfolk Tank Museum's replica female Mark IV tank. So this really is going to be something quite special. We're going to find, hopefully, their commentator who's going to know a lot more about it than I do. We'll try and find Peter, and he'll be able to share some of his great knowledge with you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. In the arena now we have a section of Lancers from the 16th Lancers Display Troop with our trumpeter and myself. If you don't know where the sound is coming from, it's the chap on the grey horse. Cavalry drill is very important, just as important to us as it is to the infantry. We need to keep close order in the ranks, a good distance between men, in files and in ranks. 4 horsemen together is a section, 2 is a half section. They operate under the command of a corporal or an NCO, who is the number 1. The next most senior man is the number 4. The most junior is the number 3. So we always have an escalating seniority in our rank. We are dressed and equipped as our troops would have been in France in 1918. And when carrying weapons, this is a sitting trot. But to really cover ground, we go into the gallop. Now this is the army gallop, the civilian canter. If you really want to see a move, we have to blow the charge. Very rarely used. The rifle is the cavalryman's principal weapon. Cavalryman's job is to deliver that rifle where it's needed, quicker than the infantry could ever reach. Because he's a lancer, of course, he also carries a lance. By 1918, our cavalry are wearing steel helmets, just the same as the infantry. Very similar uniform, khaki serge, bandolier of ammunition for that rifle across the body. And on the near side, you'll see any horseman's traditional weapon, the sword. Very useful sword, this, introduced into the army in 1908. A straight thrusting sword with a very sharp point, not very good at cutting, although as in previous years, in 1914, when the country mobilised, all swords were returned to stores for sharpening.
Hooray! Hooray! One, we got one. Oh my goodness. Oh, that's
fantastic.
Well, he touched the ring there.
Yes.
A couple of good runs there. This tank comes from the Norfolk Tank Museum, and it is in fact a replica, a very accurate replica of the real thing. Now, the tank was one of the great innovations of the First World War. When the war fossilized into a war of trenches extending from Switzerland to the coast, and there was no means of getting through the entanglements of trenches and barbed wire, something radical was called for. And in 1915, the firm Foster's in Lincoln showed the prototype of what was now in the arena. The tank which was able to cross no man's land in the open, which an infantryman wouldn't dare do in the days of machine guns, and could crush wire and bridge trenches. And this accounts for the particular shape of the tank. It was specifically designed to cross the wide trenches that both sides used. It didn't have a turret on the top because they would be too exposed. It carried its weaponry in sponsons at the side. This female tank has 5 machine guns, 1 at the front and 2 in the sponsons at each side. Now, long before the tank, of course, the infantry commanded the battlefield. And the British infantryman that went to war in 1914 was part of one of the best armies that this country has ever deployed. It was newly equipped. I spoke of a new sword for the cavalry and a new rifle. And of course we have this same rifle here now deployed by the infantry. And the beauty of having one rifle that went right across the whole of the army was that it could be used by anyone. There was no limitation. First thing you'll notice, of course, with our infantry is the long 17-inch bayonet which they have on their rifles. You may wonder why it was so long, but remember, this is a time when horsemen were a great pain to the infantry on the battlefield. And if you wanted to take a cavalryman out, you had to have a long bayonet which could reach up and kill that cavalryman on top of his horse. It also proved very useful in the trenches. Now they are dressed in the same khaki uniform introduced in 1902 throughout the whole of the army. And of course, as we're representing 1918 today, they are with their steel helmets. The steel helmet was intended to provide protection against air-bursting shrapnel. Vision goggles and flutter valves. These enable men to survive in gas clouds for limited periods. Unlike the cavalry, of course, if cavalry are caught in a gas cloud, they can get out of it pretty quick. Infantryman can't. He's got to stay and endure it, particularly if he's in a trench. By 1916, of course, we have the small box respirator carried on the chest, and this enables a man to stay in action for a good deal longer. He can stay in action breathing purified air through the box. Now the men with the hoods, of course, have got to carefully fold them away. If you've got a respirator, you can simply drop it into the pouch on your chest, Button it up and you're ready to go. But a hood has got to be folded carefully so it's not damaged, and put away in a little pouch as well.